When you sit down in front of a modern trading setup, it is easy to feel invincible. You have algorithms, live data feeds, and a dozen screens that illuminate a dark room. You have the knowledge and the tools to extract money directly from the market. You spend months memorizing risk methodologies. You read the charts flawlessly. In a simulator with paper money, you execute your trades with absolute precision. Then, the second real money hits the table, you hesitate, you panic, and your carefully constructed plan falls apart entirely. Retail traders today have access to analytical setups that rival an actual space agency. Yet, despite possessing the computing power required to put a rover on Mars, the vast majority of traders consistently fail at executing a simple entry and exit strategy. Upgrading software, adding another monitor, or buying faster data feeds will not fix this failure rate. The reason traders lose money has absolutely nothing to do with a lack of technology. To understand the problem, you have to look at the three distinct components required for trading success: your platform, your methodology, and your psychology. Think of them as a three-legged stool. The modern financial education industry obsesses almost exclusively over the first two. They sell you the charting software and teach you the risk management formulas, treating those technical skills as the only variables you need. Then they give you one final, impossible piece of advice to handle that third leg: just leave your emotions at the door. We like to think of ourselves as rational actors, calmly calculating odds and executing logic. But when you ignore the psychological component, you end up trading completely blindfolded, reacting to unseen internal biases rather than the actual market data in front of you. Attempting to simply switch off your feelings does not make you objective. It leaves your mind entirely unguarded against a complete biological hijacking. We tend to view the mind and body as separate systems, assuming our intellect can overpower our biology. The reality is that human thought is not objective. All thinking is strictly dependent on your body's current emotional state. When you click buy with your own money, the introduction of real financial risk triggers an immediate physical response. The brain literally drains oxygen and glucose away from the frontal lobes and reroutes that energy into your deeper, primitive survival centers. This happens because of a quirk in our evolution. The primitive brain is entirely incapable of distinguishing between the psychological discomfort of risking $100 and a literal physical threat to your life. In a fraction of a second, your fight or flight response takes over. You no longer perceive market volatility as a mathematical probability to manage. Your biology perceives that ticking red chart as a predator that you either need to fight or escape. This is why knowing how to execute a trade mechanically becomes utterly useless when you go live. Your biology has physically shut down your brain's capacity for logical reasoning. When traders try to act tough and push this fear out of their conscious awareness, they enter a state called mindlessness. They attempt to brute force their way through the market, unaware that the very fear they are ignoring is already driving their decision-making. Franklin Roosevelt famously warned about the fear of fear itself. In the trading room, this unacknowledged terror mutates into highly destructive behaviors. A trader might freeze and hesitate until an opportunity vanishes, or flip into aggressive revenge trading to quickly erase the discomfort of a loss. This survival response doesn't occur in a vacuum. The brain is an adaptive organ that learns what to fear during our earliest years. For a human infant, survival depends entirely on the security and attachment provided by caregivers. We wire our definitions of safety, worth, and adequacy during these formative stages. These deep-seated mindsets are often inherited across generations. A family that endured the scarcity of the Great Depression passes down a biological mandate to avoid uncertainty, wiring the next generation to perceive any financial risk as a threat to their actual existence. When the account balance drops, the primitive brain registers a total loss of safety. It interprets a red screen as a devastating biological attack on your ego and core identity. The most dangerous assumption a trader makes is treating the market like a deterministic machine, a puzzle with a guaranteed objective reality waiting to be solved. This chart shows how market data is actually processed. We only perceive this information through the subjective lenses of our own biological beliefs and historical conditioning. Depending on the psychological lens applied, the exact same data point can look like a terrifying cliff edge to an anxious trader, or a highly structured staircase to a calm one. Traders routinely react to imagined threats, fighting absolute worst-case scenarios that exist nowhere but in their own minds. As Mark Twain noted, we suffer through many horrible travesties in our lives, even though very few of them actually happen. You cannot force your will upon the market. Changing your trading results requires changing the internal psychological lens through which you view risk. A master trader does not possess a crystal ball to predict the future, and they certainly haven't figured out a way to magically eliminate fear from their biology. Instead, they practice mindfulness. They develop the ability to sit calmly with the constant psychological discomfort of uncertainty. They observe their body's biological urge to panic, and they simply watch it happen without acting on it. By creating this quiet space between the emotion and the action, they detach from their survival instincts. This distance lets them step back and intentionally choose the methodologies they apply to the screen. True financial risk management begins entirely in the mind. Before you can ever hope to conquer the market, you have to conquer the historical, biological version of yourself.